Hello and welcome to CLICKON Sports. I'm your host Harry Kettle. Today we are joined by a very special guest. This man is a professional mixed martial artist. He holds a 12-1 professional record and is currently the number 8 ranked welterweight within the UFC. It is none other than Colby Covington. Colby, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, Harry? I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on CLICKON Sports.
No worries, man. First off, how have the last 3 to 4 months been since the win in Singapore, and what was the experience like for you?
Oh man, the last 3 months have been, they've been really good. Just my development as a martial artist, and I've been evolving ever since that win. I want to keep raising the stake. I want to be the world champion, and I'm not going to stop until I get that belt around my waist. So, everything's been great since I got home from Singapore, and I'm ready to go put on a good show in Brazil in 2 weeks.
You were extremely vocal in your post-fight interview regarding wanting a title shot and calling people out. Does that kind of thing come naturally, and did you expect it to take another 4 months before you fought again?
Yeah, it does come naturally because I do believe I am the best welterweight in the world right now. I believe that Tyron Woodley has something that belongs to me, and that's the welterweight world title. And I'm not going to stop until I get that from him. So, I'm not going to stop calling him out. He's in my crosshairs, and I'm coming to take what's mine, and that's that belt. So, I didn't expect to wait another 4 months for a fight. I'm ready to fight every week. So, I want to be an active fighter. I love fighting. I love competing. I don't do this for the fame or the money. I do it because this is something I truly enjoy. So, I want to be active as I can and fight as often as I can.
So, in terms of away from the octagon, what are some of your favourite interests or hobbies away from fighting that people may not be aware of?
Some of my favorite interests and hobbies are pro wrestling. I love pro wrestling and that sort of thing. I want to go down that avenue after fighting. That's something I've always enjoyed since I was a kid. And also Texas Hold'em poker. I enjoy playing poker. It's similar to fighting. There's a lot of mental warfare. There's a lot of mind games, and it's a percentage game. So I love Texas Hold'em. It gives me that I'm a competitor. It allows me to compete and get that competitor side out of me.
I was going to ask you about the wrestling because obviously you were involved in a kind of short angle on GFW Impact. How much fun was that for you, given that you're a wrestling fan?
Oh man, that was like a dream come true for me. I felt like a little kid in a candy shack. That was the most fun I've had in a long time, and we're going out to the pay-per-view in Ottawa next month after my fight, the week after in November. So, that was such a dream come true for me growing up, watching, Jeff Jarrett, the guy who was leading me on the show, and some of the other guys, James Storm. I've seen those guys a lot in the past. So, that was a dream come true. And it's a big hobby of mine, and it's a passion of mine. So hopefully I can keep going down that avenue and get some bigger shows, maybe in the WWE someday.
Have you been training in professional wrestling?
Yeah. I've been training in professional wrestling for the last couple of years. They do a pro wrestling show at American Top Team, so we're always practicing moves and whatnot, and practicing our pro wrestling skills. So I definitely have a lot of pro wrestling experience, and I come from an amateur wrestling background, so this is nothing new to me.
So did you know who Bobby Lashley was before you met him from his time in WWE?
Yeah. I've known Bobby for probably 5 or 6 years now. He's at American Top Team. So, Bobby and me, we go way back during our American Top Team days since he was competing in MMA. And I've known of him for a while because he used to wrestle amateurly as well as I did. So, I've known the name. He's a beast. He's a multi-talented athlete. He's one of the best in the world at pro wrestling and at MMA and wrestling.
So have you got any particular favourites, whether it be WWE, GFW, or on the independents?
Can you ask that one more time?
Sorry, do you have any particular favourite wrestlers from the WWE, GFW, or on the independent scene?
Yeah, my favorite wrestlers from WWE are, the past legends, like the Hulk Hogan and The Rock. He was one of my favorite wrestlers. Triple H, Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, all those legends. Those are the guys I looked up to as a kid. So those will always be my favorite guys.
Do you think that Ronda, because there's been rumours that Ronda's going to go over to WWE, do you think Ronda Rousey could make a name for herself in professional wrestling?
Yeah, definitely. I think Ronda Rousey can make a good name for herself in professional wrestling. She understands the promotional side of things, and she always knew how to. Even when she was fighting in her MMA career, she had a lot of enthusiasm and attitude, and I think that would translate well to the pro wrestling ring. So I think Ronda Rousey has a bright future for pro wrestling.
So back over to MMA. When you look at the rankings and see yourself positioned in 8th, how much stock do you put into that, or how much attention do you give those numbers? So when you look at the rankings and you see yourself positioned in 8th, how much stock do you put into that, or how much attention do you give the rankings?
I don't give any attention to the rankings. I've never given any attention to the rankings. My last fight, I wasn't ranked, and I was fighting the number 7 guy in the world who'd only lost to the number 1 and number 2 guy in the world. So, I dominated him. You don't see a 30-25 scorecard very often. I completely dismantled him. It wasn't even competitive. So that was the number 7 guy in the world. You can imagine what I'm going to do to the guys ahead of him. It's not going to be fair for those guys. So sitting at number 8, I see the guys ahead of me, and I see a lot of guys that are aged fighters. I see a lot of guys that are past their time. This is my time now, and Tyron Woodley, he's next. I've trained with him in the gym, and it's not competitive. When I train with him, I've completely outclassed him and embarrassed him. So, those rankings those rankings don't mean a lot to me, and I'm going to show that I'm the best fighter in the world on October 28th against Damian Maia.
Is it awkward to train in the same vicinity as someone who is the champion of your division?
No, not at all. The thing is, we trained together a couple years ago, so he doesn't train anymore at our facility at American Top Team. He trains in St. Louis, and he trains at Rufa Sports. So, I think he kind of got the vibe that, hey, there's these up and coming guys like me and Jorge Masvidal that are right on his tail and getting ready to fight him soon. And he realized that this wasn't a good place for him to train anymore. And the big thing with Tyron Woodley, man, he doesn't like tough training. He likes to run his training. When he was at American Top Team, we were beating him up every day. He didn't like that. He wanted to control his training. He wanted to be in charge. He wanted to set the minutes, the rounds. He didn't like wanting to grind. He's never like that. He likes things where he can control it and be able to say when he's going to stop the training sessions. So that's why I feel like it's an easy fight. He's not a very good cardio fighter, so he plays it safe.
So in terms of the fact that you're going to be fighting Maia, do you think it's going to be interesting for people to put his fight against yours, given that people criticised his, so they can see just how big of a difference there is between the two of you?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody saw what the fight against Damian Maia and Tyron Woodley. It was a boring fight. It was probably the boringest welterweight title fight in UFC history. I mean, it was the least amount of strikes thrown in a title fight in history. No one wants to see that. No one wants to see guys go out there and throw one around. They want to see guys get in each other's face and fight. That's what we're here to do is fight. So, what I do to Damian Maia on October 28th, I'm going to lay him to rest. I'm going to retire Damian Maia, and then everybody's going to know that I'm next for Tyron Woodley because I'm going to beat Damian Maia worse than Tyron Woodley did. So when I get my hands on Tyron Woodley next, you can mark my words, I'm going to retire Tyron Woodley next too.
Do you feel like the fight against Maia is something of a coming out party for everyone? Like, for people who don't know your name already, they will know your name after this fight.
Yes, this is for sure my coming out party. I had a coming out party against Dong Hum Kim last fight in Singapore. I went over to his home nation of China or Asia, and I completely dismantled him, and he's the biggest Asian legend. Now I'm going to face the biggest Brazilian legend, and I'm going to his backyard home city. So this is my coming out party when I retire Damian Maia.
There's been a lot of talk recently about introducing new weight classes into the UFC, especially after what happened with Kevin Lee. Do you agree with the idea, or do you think things are just fine as they are?
No, I think they're good how they are. The thing about that is everybody's acting like it's the UFC's fault. Like, these guys don't need to cut a lot of weight, man. Like, look at me. I'm not a big 170 pounder. I walk around at 180 pounds max, maybe the high 70s. So, I'm not cutting a lot of weight, and most of the time, like a guy like my size would go to 155. They wouldn't fight at welterweight. But I know I'm the best fighter in the world, so I don't need to cut weight. It doesn't matter for me to cut weight. So this doesn't really fall on the UFC's lap or anybody else's laps. This falls on the fighter's laps. If you're in between weight classes, go up a weight class. What are you scared of? A guy like Kevin Lee, he's probably bigger than me, and he probably walks around heavier than I do. But look at me. I'm fighting at 170. I'm not scared of the 170-pounders. I can beat every 170-pounder in the world. I don't need to cut weight. And that's the thing. A lot of these guys, they think that if they cut all these weights, they're going to have a big, massive advantage because they're going to be bigger on fight night. Well, that's not true, because when you cut all that weight, you're not going to have as much energy on fight night. So, if they want to add more weight classes, cool, I'm on board. I can get 2 belts, whatever. I'll get the welterweight belt, and then I'll go get the 165 belt. But if they don't, I'm fine with it too. I think the fighters need to take initiative and fight up a weight class and fight at a more comfortable, natural weight class.
In terms of like self-promotion and things like that, we've seen from people like Conor McGregor that bigging yourself up and being able to talk is so important in the present day. Do you think one of the reasons that people are doing that so much is because maybe the UFC isn't doing their job as well when it comes to promoting people?
Falls on the UFC, but I do think that the fighters need to be able to promote themselves. This isn't, you got to take things in your own hands. This is your own career. You can't expect things to be given to you. You have to go out there and earn things. That's, this saying that I've always believed to be true is, nothing's given. You have to go earn it. So if you want to be a Conor McGregor, if you want to be promoted like that, then you need to go out there and show your worth, and you need to be able to promote yourself. So this doesn't have to do with the UFC. I think that we need to take it in our own hands, and we need to go out there and be more professional, business savvy, and promote our own fights.
Yeah. With the fight being over in Brazil, is that going to change how you usually prepare for a fight in terms of will you need to get there earlier to acclimatise to Brazil, or how will things be different?
Not too much. Brazil's only 2 hours ahead of the East Coast time, so
okay.
It won't be like going to Singapore. My last fight in Singapore, they're 16 hours ahead in their time zone, and
wow.
That's a whole different scenario. I had to get out there early, so going to Brazil, I'll go like a week early, but nothing too drastic. It'll be pretty normal.
When you look at the overall quality of the welterweight division, people tend to believe that the lightweight division is one of the strongest in the UFC. Do you think that the welterweight division is at one of its strongest points, or do you think that you can beat any and every guy in the division right now?
I think the welterweight is the strongest premier weight, and I think it always has been since the beginning of time. It's everybody in the world walks around in between 170 and 190 pounds. That's the average weight of any male in the world. So I think it's the most competitive division. I think the lightweights, it's a strong division, but those guys, I don't know. I don't think it's that great of a division. I think there's better weight divisions, maybe like middleweight or featherweight, but I think welterweight is the strongest division in the world. That's where the most amount of weight of people in the world reside in. But I also think I'm the best in that division right now. I think a lot of those guys in that division and my division are older now. So this is my division now. I'm taking it over one by one, and it starts with Damian Maia, and then I'm finishing it with Tyron Woodley next.
When you get the win over Maia, are you going to be looking for a quick turnaround for another fight, or are you going to take a couple months off?
No, I'm an active fighter. After I beat Damian Maia on October 28th, that is a foregone conclusion. I will beat Damian Maia, and I'm looking for a quick turnaround. Whenever Tyron Woodley wants to man up and sign the date, we can fight the next week in Madison Square Garden. I'll be down. So I'll be looking for a quick turnaround against Tyron Woodley.
So to finish things off, this is something we ask everybody. What can we expect in the next 18 to 24 months from Colby Covington?
The next 18 to 24 months, you can expect a fast rise of Colby Covington. I'm the next UFC superstar in this business. I'm going to take the game over by the hands, and this is going to be my game. You can mark my words on this interview now. I'm taking this whole show business over. I'm going to be the face of the fight promotion. Mark my words.
Well, Colby, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you on. We can't wait to see you fight against Maia, and we wish you all the best of luck in the future.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot, Harry. Thanks, CLICKON Sports, for having me on. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, man.